Hey, this is Rob, aka Jester the Rogue, and this is Game Day First Play, where I play a game for the first time. I give you my thoughts on it, including all the positives and all the things I consider negatives. This time it's Masmorra, the Dungeons of Arcadia, and this is the first time I've done one on video because I'm playing it solo. I need to test the camera, I need to test doing videos and using my hands while doing stuff and talking. I've also got the audio equipment that I use for podcast at JTR Podcast anyway, so I thought I might as well do this one on video. Now, I've got on my blog, if you go to jtrpodcast.com, I've got 700, over 700, I think, Game Day First Play written articles with pictures and my little thoughts and stuff at the end. And hopefully people find them useful. So I thought I'd do a video one, do something a bit different. Now, I know it's called Game Day First Play. This is actually my third play because I played this Wednesday when I tried to video it the first time. I learnt a lot about my camera on that day. I learnt that if it's not plugged in, the battery only lasts an hour, and this game lasts a bit longer when you're describing what you're doing at every step. So, yep, the camera ran out just before the end. And then also, Thursday, I took it to my game group. There's two game modes. There's the Alliance mode, which is what we're going to play today, which is like a solo 1 to 5 players solo co-op. And on Thursday with my game group, we played the sort of the regular game, the 2 to 5 player versus, where you're screwing each other over and trying to get to an experience point total first, be the first to get to 16 experience points to win the game. And that's a lot of fun, but I thought I'd just play it through again, try and do it a bit better. The camera is plugged in, so it shouldn't cut out, hopefully. And let's see where we go from there. So this is, as I said, Masmorra, the Dungeons of Arcadia. It's sort of a spin-off game set in the Arcadia Quest world. It's dice driven, just as Arcadia Quest is. And what we're going to do in the Alliance game is we need to dig through to the third level. So we're going to start in this starting room here, and we're going to dig through to the third level by finding the stairs through the first level to the second level. In the third level, there's a big room with lots of monsters, and we need to defeat the boss, who is called Malefius, something. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm sure it's big and scary, and we'll find out when we get there. But I am using a character called Wisp, and Wisp is a human rogue. Obviously, with my website being Jester the Rogue, I like rogues. The first time I played it, I used a character called Raffi, who was an assassin who looks very Assassin's Creed-like, and that was really good because I do like Assassin's Creed. And then on Thursday in the Versus game, I played Jack, who was a jester, which all games should have jesters, so that's great. So I've been a jester on Thursday, I'm going to be a rogue today on Saturday. Yeah, I do like games with jesters and rogues in. So how do you play? Well, as I said, it's dice driven. You're going to be moving around these tiles, fighting monsters, disarming traps, opening treasure chests and gathering treasure. And what you do at the beginning of your turn is you roll these 6 dice and you get 1 reroll. You can reroll as many dice as you want, but you only get 1 reroll. The dice are very simple. The shield, the sword and the bow are used for combat, which I'll get to later. The feet are moved for walking, and that's just what they do. And you also get this token here, which is a free movement token. So you always get to move every turn. You're never going to be out of movement. You also have potions, which can heal your health, which I will do now. I'll put myself back up to 6 health there. And you have a magic dice, which allows you to spend the magic dice to change the side of any other die you have. So that's how all those dice work. You use them by locking them in these spaces. Some of the tiles themselves have places to lock dice into to activate them. And in this game, we've got 21 turns. This is going to be the turn marker. And when you get to 21 turns, if you haven't defeated Malefius before the 21 turns is up, or I die, and in a co-op game, if there's more than 1 player, if anyone dies, the game will end immediately, and you've all lost. So you need to work together. Yep, you'll lose if it gets to 21 turns. This is my experience tracker. When I get past these arrows, I get to level up an ability, which means you move one of these cards up, and you get a new ability, and there's 2 on each card behind the screens there. You also have a natural ability, and my natural ability is I can spend this token to avoid combat in any room, so hopefully that comes in handy. So, okay, let's start the game. So in an alliance game, obviously you're all working together, so there's nothing to deal you damage apart from the dungeon itself and all the monsters. So you also have this evil deck full of evil cards, and the first thing you do at the beginning of a turn is draw one of these cards. So the first card I've got is Ceiling Rupture. These are very rarely any good. Sometimes they are not too bad, but they're never good. So, Ceiling Rupture, the active hero must choose take 2 wounds or lose their natural ability for the end of this turn. Well, I want to keep my natural ability. I want to be able to use this ability because I don't know what I'm going to be facing, so I'm going to lose 2 wounds, and hopefully that was the right decision. We won't know just yet. So now what you do after you've done the evil card is you roll the dice. And then, as I said, you've got 1 free reroll. Now I've got a lot of magic there, so I don't need all that. So I'll probably roll all those magic. We'll keep the shield and the bow in case I need them. And that's what I'm left with. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is explore, and I'm going to use this dice to explore rather than my free movement, just in case I need to use my ability. So there we go, I've got that on there, and this is a spawn tile which goes there. You move into it for free. When you move, you've got 2 movement points, so I've used 1 to go into there and to explore, and then 1 for the free movement. So I've got 1 movement point left. You roll a monster die because there's a skull, so you roll a minor monster. This room itself is a spawn room, which means every turn, if the room's empty, it's going to spawn a new dice. So there's an orc. An orc has no ability. It's got 3 attack and 2 defense, so I need 2 to kill it. And then you turn over the top tile of the deck. It's worth noting that you can't move when you're in the room with the monster, so I've lost my extra action point that I had. But when there is a monster in the room, you have to attack it once. You do 1 round of combat where you attack it and it attacks you. You can use your abilities. You can use magic dice. You can play treasure cards from your hand. I haven't got any of those yet. And you can buy a treasure card. Treasure cards have a cost. They cost 5 gold. I haven't got any gold yet either, so I need to wait for those. So I'm going to attack the orc. And how combat works is it's just dice based. You spend dice. So if I used a bow and a sword, he's got 2 defense. That deals 2 damage. I would kill it. But because I've used a sword, and that means we're in close combat, he's going to be able to attack me back for 3. So what I'll do instead is I'll use 2 bows, which means I'll deal it 2 damage. It doesn't deal me any damage back, so I spend these 2 dice. I lock these on my player board to show that they've been used. And the orc will die. The orc has 2 pips on there to show I've got 2 experience points, so I'll gain that now. 1, 2. And I have 3 dice left. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to use this free exploration token to explore. I'm going to go there. Now this is a treasure room. It's got a treasure chest. You put a treasure chest on top of there. Just so you know, some of the components in my game, because it was the Kickstarter edition, are different to what you get in the regular board game. I know these chests aren't in, and I know that this token is cardboard instead of plastic. It doesn't really make too much difference, but I'm just letting you know just in case. You turn over the tile again. Okay, so in this room there is a goblin. Now a goblin has only got 1 attack and 2 defense, but it's got an ability called quick stab, which means that if I attack it with all range damage, it still gets to hit me, so I'm going to take some damage from that. I can't open this chest yet because there is still a monster in the room, so that's not very good. I've got 3 dice. I've got 1 attack, so it's not enough to kill it. So what I'll do is I'll spend a potion to gain a life. And then I have a round of combat with the monster. Now, the 1 dice isn't good enough to kill it, but it's going to hit me for 1, which I'm going to block with my shield. And that's basically the end of round 1. Now, after you've taken all your actions, any dice you haven't used, you can cash in. I think it's called collect bounties. I'll take 1 gold because I've got 1 dice. You get 1 gold per die. And that's the end of round 1. So back in round 2, and I've killed the goblin, which gives me 2 experience points, which means I leveled up. So I've took this shuriken throw ability, which means I can lock any 2 dice and change them into 2 bows. So I've got nice. So now I can avoid combat, and I've got some decent attack options there. And I'm going to spend this shield token to get this chest. Opening a chest is really worth doing because it gives you 1 experience point. It also gives you 1 gold, and it gives you 1 treasure card. And the treasure card I have here is Battle Cry. The treasure cards have 2 halves. The top half is you can play any time, and the bottom half is you can only play on your turn. So the top half says choose 1 room. All monsters in that room inflict 1 wound with their payback, minus 1 wound with their payback to the end of this round. So that prevents damage. That's good. And the bottom one is stealth. Ignore any payback on the first attack you make this turn. So that's nice. That fits in well with my character as well. And that's it for round 2. I'm just going to lock these 2 dice, collect my bounties, and get 2 more gold. That gives me 4 gold now I've got, and I can 1 away from buying a card. So I'm going to go back to the game, and we'll come back when something happens. So we're into round 3, and all I did was move once to explore, and it all went wrong from there. So the top room tile was a rune room, which I knew, and rune rooms spawn these bigger tiles, and they're generally a bit harder, but you get a reward. You gain an experience straight away just for revealing the room, but you've also got a small monster in there, another goblin. We've got a Chulu, Cthulhu type person in there, who needs you to spend a magic in order to prevent him from making you discard all of your treasure or all of your gold. So yeah, that's not good. But there's also 2 treasure chests in there, which is good, so that can get me some stuff back. The next tile I revealed was a curse. It's called Damnation, so I had to discard the treasure card I got here earlier and then discard that tile. Then the next one I revealed is this trap, so I lose a life from the trap, and yeah, if I move in or out of this room, then I'm going to take another damage. So that wasn't a very good start, but that is pretty much the game. You sort of see how it works. You use your dice to fight monsters, you use your dice to open treasure chests, you use your dice to disarm traps. You have special abilities which you can allow you to spend your dice in different ways. There's loads of characters to pick from. So that is Masmorra at the Dungeons of Arcadia. Let's take a look at some of the positives and some of the negatives. So let's start with the positives. First of all, it's a lot of fun. You've got the dice rolling, which is always good. You've got a lot of stuff to do on your turn. You've only got the 6 dice. You're restricted to what you can do for combat. In the player versus player game, you can move monsters into rooms with opponents and make them have to fight them, which means they have to roll the symbols they need for combat rather than rolling the symbols they need to gain treasures, which they can then use against you. So that's really good. The solo game itself is pretty fun. It's quite intense, especially as you start getting towards the end of rounds where there's monsters in other rooms and you then move the monsters, which is one thing I didn't do during the brief playthrough there. At the end of a round, all the monsters move one room towards the nearest hero, and it's obviously in a solo game all the monsters are moving towards you, so you need to keep moving, kind of keep up this tempo with this big stream of monsters behind you. Hopefully you can get enough treasure to draw a card that makes you either pause their movement for a turn or lets you control their movement and move them back a bit, which is really good. So now I'm going to have a special section I'm going to call positives that are also negatives. So as you can see, Wisp here has the special ability. Every character has 6 health, and every character also has this ability, which is something I forgot to mention as well, which if you spend a shield and a sword during combat, it gives you a shield and 2 swords. So as you can see, there are a lot of characters, lots and lots of characters, and they're all unique, they're all individual, they all have their own natural ability, they're all in alphabetical order because that's the kind of person I am. And they're great. That's fine, except you need to find the card. You need to choose a character. Some people don't want to. Some people want to read all the stories on the back, which is fantastic because you have to sit there waiting for them. And then not only that, you have to find their 2 cards out of the deck, which is why I keep them all in alphabetical order so they're easier to find. There are 54 of them. You then have to do the hardest thing, which is find the matching mini. So once you've picked your character, there's Jack, and you've done your thing and you've found the cards and you've set all your area up, you then have to find the miniature in a box of miniatures, which is not great. They're all the same colour, they're all grey, which is fine. You know, I'm not going to paint my miniatures, I'm not a painter, I don't really want anyone to paint them. But you know, it's just difficult. There's Raffi the Assassin's Creed guy. So yeah, there's loads of them, which is great, but they're really, really hard to find. And it's really hard just to get the game started, especially if you're that kind of person that wants to carefully pick your character. The other positive that's also a negative is the number of enemies. Look at them all, they're great, they're all different colours, they've all got their pictures on. They all look fantastic. There's all the minor ones here, these are all the major ones, and all the bosses represented by tokens in the middle. That's great because they've all got different abilities. Unfortunately, they've all got different abilities, so there's a card for every single one of them, and there's a lot, and every player needs one of these cards, and the game doesn't take up too much table space, but when you think about it, and everybody's got one of these out, it does. And you can't really memorize all of them because there's so many. Some are promos I know, and some are from expansions which you don't need in the game, so you don't need to have all these, but you know, you want to have them, don't you? So yeah, just it's a lot of sorting out. So that's all the positives, and all the positives are also negatives. there aren't really any negatives apart from what I already said, but they're also kind of positives anyway. I think it's a really fun game. It's good to play solo. It's good to play with. I've played it with 4 players. That was a lot of fun. I'd like to play it with the full 5. Turns aren't very long, and you're kind of always in the game because you always have the treasure cards. And the treasure cards in a multiplayer game allow you to play them on other players' turns, so you can always attack them or steal XP off them and stuff. So you're always sort of in the game, which is great. Remember to like this video if you like it, share it to let other people know about it, and subscribe to the channel for more board game related content. This has been a very rough video, as rough as my voice is right now because I've got a bit of a sore throat. If you have any tips or suggestions or anything, especially about the quality of the video, please let me know. This is the first one. I hope to do more. So I will see you soon.